Yeah, I request all the students to be kindly seated. Thank you. On behalf of GVM's, Dr. Dada Vaidya College of Education, I welcome all the students, our special guest, Dr. Sandhya Ram and Dr. Usgaonkar, who have specially come here for the program on POSH Act under the internal committee. This program is held by GVM's Dr. Dada Vaidya College of Education in collaboration with VM Sargaonkar Law College. Yes. We also have online with us Karuna Satardikar, ma'am, Associate Professor of the college and the President of the Internal Committee. Also we have Sanjay Govekar sir, Associate Professor of GVM's, Dr. Dada Vaidya College of Education, who is the member of IC, and Shweta Marathe, who is our financial head and accountant of the college. She is also member of IC, and other than that, we have a UG member, the student of our MEd course, Rutuja Lotlikar, who has also joined. I think she has just lost a connection, or she is also there online. She is also a member and a student representative. Other student is from our UG department. So all the members of the IC committee are present, and along with them, we have another member, Samir sir, and I myself. So our external member, Dr. Usgaonkar, and our esteemed guest, Dr. Sandhya Ram from VM Sargaonkar College. As we have informed you yesterday, this is an important program for all of us. So we shall start as soon as possible. To begin the program, if Karuna ma'am is online. Good morning, Karuna ma'am. Are you online?
Hello, good morning. Yes.
Yes, yes. So as the president of IC, I just request ma'am to address the meeting.
And the sound, sir.
Yes, the sound is audible, ma'am.
It was echoing. I can speak. I can speak.
college. So I am here much of a legal knowledge, but still whatever I feel, because today's matter is on mostly of the legal thing. Anyway, you children are growing up and taking up education in providing education for others. So this is a very responsible education itself. And here, everywhere, anybody and everybody, at workplace or education, one has to be safe and sound so that you perform without any disturbance. So this is the requirement to make this world a nice place to live. There are many things happening here and there, and we have to go on touching upon all the points to do the corrections and see that ultimate effect is a good, very nicely, nice atmosphere to be in. So here this is a very important thing, whatever today's topic is, that there used to be many confusions and things happening in this world, but this is taken up nicely under legal thing, and so that children or adults or everybody at all ages, they are safe and secure without any disturbance. And sexual harassment is no exception to this. So sexual harassment itself, whether it's a boy or a girl, they should be provided safety from such matters, and there is an act for this to protect, prevent and prohibit all these bad things whatever are happening. So there is an expert today who will talk on this in details, and you will be given the real knowledge about it. But for me, what I can talk is we have to maintain our self-respect in any way, whether it's an education, whether it is a working. So once you maintain your self-respect, it becomes, whether it's a boy or a girl, it becomes very happy, because friendliness, working together requires exchange of opinions, exchange of views, working together, doing things, doing together, and in this togetherness, many things, unwanted things crop up, which should be prevented. And once it goes to a certain level, it has to be taking help of the law. So that is how we ourselves invite these compulsions. So what I say is, we can prevent it. Now you girls or you boys, you have grown up to taking primary education, secondary education, and now you are on the verge of a specialized education. So in this you will be handling more children and giving them showing them the right path. You are the torch bearers for that further population of ours. So now it is, today's thing will help you a lot, not only for your own sake, but to impart this knowledge to the other children around, wherever you will be going to work with, and in the schools and other colleges, wherever you will be. So I think more than this may not be very this for you. It may be compulsion to hear from my side. So let us wait for the big person of today who will be giving you the proper knowledge about this act and its implication and all other things involved in that. I thank you very much. I thank again the staff and the college authorities to have invited me for this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now let's turn our attention to our chief guest, Dr. Sandhya Ram. Dr. Sandhya is an associate professor at VM Salgaonkar College of Law, Goa. With a remarkable career spanning over 2 decades, she has dedicated herself to the field of education, making substantial contributions as an educator. Dr. Sandhya is also deeply involved in ethical and regulatory committees, serving as a member of the Institutional Ethical Committee of Goa Medical College, the Regional Internal Committee of Reserve Bank of India in Panjim, and the Internal Committee of Goa University. Furthermore, she holds the position of the presiding officer of the Internal Committee at VM Salgaonkar College of Law. Dr. Sandhya holds a master's degree in Constitutional Law and Administrative Law from the Department of Law, Kerala University. Her scholarly pursuits led her to earn a PhD focusing on the crucial topic of protection of rights of older person from Goa University. Now I request Samir Naik, member of IC and Associate Professor of GVM's Dr. Dada Vaidya College of Education, to formally welcome Madam with flowers. Now I request Dr. Sandhya to please address our students.
A very good morning to all of you. Thank you, Poornima ma'am, for your kind words, and thank you to the college, to the institution, to Principal IQAC Chairperson, and to other faculty members for inviting me here. Very glad to see the future teachers sitting here, and I request you to ask me questions whenever doubt be, at whatever point of time, and do participate in interacting, in sharing your thoughts, so that it becomes a learning, not just for you, but also for me. So with that, I'll just lead you to this particular law which has been passed by the Parliament of India, which affects each one of us, irrespective of your gender, irrespective of your position as an employer or as an employee, irrespective of your position as a teacher or a student. Anywhere we go, as long as we are working and we are at a workplace. And the name of this act is, we call it for convenience in an abbreviated form as a POSH Act, P-O-S-H, POSH Act. This term POSH, the expanded version of POSH is Prohibition and Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace. In fact, I feel this word POSH is quite a powerful word, having probably more power than the power of the word of no. We all know about the power of no. We should say no at the right time and loudly and clearly. Similarly, we should be able to say POSH, no matter it happens to whoever. So POSH should become a mantra, and to take it forward, the legal aspects of it along with the reasons why this happened, all would be analyzed together in a short span of time. So taking you further, is there a remote by any chance? Slides, okay. It's okay. We can coordinate. So this is the full title of the act I was mentioning about. This is a law that is passed by the Parliament in the year 2013. But there are some reasons why Parliament of India decided to pass this act. Whenever you see an act with a capital A, know that it is a law that is passed by the Parliament. That's the name of all the legislations end with the word act, with a capital A. So this act had been passed in the year 2013 by the Parliament of India. When it comes to educational institutions of the nature of a college, that is a higher educational institution, sorry, in addition to this POSH Act, which lays down this basic principle that no woman shall be subjected to sexual harassment at any workplace. In addition to this principle which is contained in the POSH Act, UGC, University Grants Commission, has issued a set of regulations to be followed in all colleges, in all higher educational institutions. Since we are at a higher educational institution, we are bound by this act which is passed by the Parliament, and also the regulations which are issued by UGC, which deal with the same topic. So here, 3 words I have highlighted in this one page, in this one line. The line, I'm reading it again along with you. Please read along with me. No woman shall be subjected to sexual harassment at any workplace. Point number 1. This rule, this law applies only to protecting women. It does not protect men from sexual harassment or any other gender from sexual harassment as of today. Tomorrow, if Parliament amends the law, it will come into the picture. We may criticize, we may discuss why not others also, but I am telling you the fact of how the law exists today and the reasons behind passing of this act. Or why is it that only women are protected and not men? But in course of time, I am sure that because recently a law has been passed which is Transgender Rights Protection Act. So in course of time, in future, maybe it would be expanded. I am speaking of the law as it exists today. So therefore, 31st of January 2024. So as of today, it applies only to protecting women. And this act applies, this law applies for protecting women from only sexual harassment, not other kinds of harassment. Because different types of harassments are possible, out of which only sexual harassment, that is what is covered in this particular legislation. And also, sexual harassment that happens anywhere is not covered under this act. If sexual harassment of a woman happens at a workplace, that is covered under this act. Suppose sexual harassment happens elsewhere, not at your workplace. There is the Indian Penal Code, which is a criminal law which deals with that situation where you can file a police complaint. Here we are dealing with, in our workplaces, suppose an act of sexual harassment takes place without going to the police. What can I do within the department itself? Because everybody does not want to report a matter to the police and make it a criminal complaint at all points of time. You may just want that person to be transferred to another department. Or you may not want to work under his supervision. Or you may want that this person is not fit, this will continue and this person has to be removed from this job. These are the different punishments which an office, an employer can give to one of the employees or one of the students for that matter. So such matters, we are not discussing about a crime. Crime is taken care of in a criminal court where the punishment is imprisonment and other things. Here the punishment is punishment relating to your employment or punishment relating to your studies. Like a student may be punished from not entering the campus, not answering that particular year, or maybe dismissing a student or dismissing an employee. It goes in this manner. It is not about crime and it is not about punishment that we are speaking about. And since all of you are doing B.Ed program and you are going to be teachers in schools, I must tell you at the beginning itself that this law applies to a woman, not to a child. So suppose a child is reporting, child is who? Below 18 years of age. So if a child is reporting that there has been a sexual harassment, do not ever take it to your internal committee. Do not ever try to sort it out within the institution, because an abuse, that to a sexual abuse on a child, is a crime. We have nothing to do about it. We can't settle it inside our institution. If we do that, we are committing a crime for which we also could be punished with imprisonment. Because that comes under another law called POSH. You must be familiar, some of you at least. There is a law called Prevention of Children from Sexual Offences Act. That is a criminal law. So never confuse what we are discussing today with when it happens to a child. Take your hands off and report to the authorities, report to the police. That's the only thing we can do, and that is what we are expected to do, because not reporting is a crime under that act. Keep that in mind, so that I just want to say, make it very clear at the beginning itself, we are discussing about people who have crossed the age of 18. So coming to the next. So in this time, I'll quickly take you through 3 different segments or 3 stages, step 1, step 2 and step 3. At the first step, we will see why this happens, what are the basic concepts, why sexual harassment happens to women, or rather why only women are protected, why not men? If women are protected, does it mean that men are discriminated? Why is it so? So that clarity should be there, because any law must have, must enter the minds of the people with some clarity and with some conviction. Because if I don't believe in the fairness of that law, then I am mechanically following it. But such adherence to such legislation should come from within. So to come from within, we should convince ourselves, we should know what is the rationale, what is the justification behind such a law, what are the underlying concepts. That we'll see first. Then we'll see quickly about a case called Vishakha, which was a judgment given by the Supreme Court, which started with The whole concept that women would be or could be subjected to sexual harassment at their workplaces, and something should be done to protect them from this. That thought started with Vishakha judgment. So I would very briefly discuss that, and then I will tell you what are the important things that one should know in the POSH Act, especially because you are also going to be an educator in future and you are a student as of now. So let's move to that. Stage 1 is conceptual analysis. So here I will just tell you let me just ask you first. I hope you can hear me. Can these young people sitting here, according to you? According to you, why sexual harassment happens to anyone, to any woman? Please respond. Why does this happen? What is the reason for it? Come on, GVMs, teachers of tomorrow, when you ask questions to your students, you will remember this when they don't respond. So practice that response. Why do you think? Do you want to? Anyone? Please raise your hands. I'm quite surprised that nobody is responding. Yes, I'll pass it to you, please.
Lack of awareness.
Is lack of awareness could be, okay, that may be, because I do not know. In the sense, I am interpreting like, no, I send a message to my colleague. I have not even read the full message. It was a forward message. And I did not take enough care to read it fully or to understand it, or maybe it was just a joke and I thought that it is going to be a joke for everyone. But there was some sexually colored remark in it which might be laughed at by 10 of your colleagues, but one person might find it very offensive. You were not aware that you were not supposed to send this joke. So therefore, in that way, when you look at it, lack of awareness could be, because I do not sometimes know that doing this amounts to sexual harassment and for which I could be punished later on, or action could be initiated against me later on. So lack of awareness is one important reason for both sides, for the one who is doing it and for the one who is receiving it, both ways. But keeping the law aside, why women are sexually harassed?
Lack of education. At the age where they have to be given education about the things are not talked openly in our culture. So that is one of the reasons.
So again, now first it was about awareness at the legal aspect. Now this is awareness about probably sex education, or the way in which you are supposed to behave, how you can, what you cannot, what it means, what it does not, all these things could be. Anyone else?
Superiority complex.
Anybody else wants to respond? Yeah. There is one person.
Because many feel that because of the patriarchal society, they feel that they can do, so they do, and they feel that it won't be reported, no action will be taken. So this is, I think, the main reason.
I think one is parenting. Now both the parents are going for work and they are giving less time to the children. Lack of knowledge of good touch, bad touch. More use of mobile. The no restrictions are using mobile for children.
I've noticed that perceptions are very different when the two sides, no? If I may just classify it as men and women, if you may allow me to do that, then perceptions are very different. You just see how differently it was seen. One student said, superiority, male superiority is the reason behind it. Remember Nirbhaya case. This person who was the accused, who was later hung to death, he was interviewed when he was in prison. That was telecasted in BBC, later government took it off. So that interview I had seen and I was surprised and shocked. Those of you who had seen it might remember. The boy or that accused in prison after doing this heinous crime, he's saying, but why she had to travel with a boy in the bus at night? See, he's not understanding and he thinks that he has to take action in this way by punishing her. Superiority comes in the form of punishing the other person. Followed by another perception which came is why the superiority? Because of patriarchy. And also a feeling that nobody will speak up. That is the assurance. You may want to or you may feel like doing something, but that assurance is nobody will speak up. So this law and this awareness program, when we discuss more about it, we will speak up. We will say POSH. We meaning both men, women and every other person. Every human being will say POSH. So with that, this has to come to an end. That is what we are trying for through these ventures.
Lack of inhibition from this under the effect of the substance abuse.
So along with what ma'am said, substance abuse, and also what was said here regarding use of mobile phone. Now substance abuse, it is illegal, which also adds to it. Because you go to levels of thinking which otherwise you might not have or probably you would have suppressed. Second thing is about use of mobile. But this is something we really cannot do anything about it. We have to live with mobiles. Once you enter your working zone, you will know that you hardly write. Those of you are on the other side, where exams are over, will know that we hardly write nowadays. Everything is being typed. Okay? So even creative people find it difficult to, some people would say I can only write, but I know very, very many who can only type now. Creativity also comes in only when, so we are mutated in that manner, our mannerism. So mobile phones we cannot avoid. But how to use it and how we can stay away from it is a matter to be discussed not only for this topic but generally speaking. Dopamine detox is something which we have to think about. Anyway, let me come back to this now. Next one. So just two examples and 2 points I'm giving you to show as a reason why law has decided to protect only women regarding this matter and not men or others. One is sexual harassment is a crime or it is an offense, it is an act that predominantly happens to women. It might happen to men, I am not denying it, but predominantly it happens to women. That is why we hear about what is called casting couches coming from women. We don't hear a man speaking about it. Casting couch, if you recollect, it's about to get a chance in a movie, a girl is asked to yield and succumb to sexual demands in order to get a chance in a movie. But this is called casting couch. But men are not asked to. Generally and predominantly not asked to, and men have not reported about casting couches. Now, one way of looking at it is, why did she compromise and agree for all that, to got a chance in a movie, and after enjoying all the benefits, why is she complaining about it after some years? This is what we generally heard at the time of Me Too movement. I am just prompting you to think in a different way. That is, she has taken benefit or not is secondary. Why is it that only women are asked to compromise? Why is it that she doesn't have an option and opportunity to go ahead without compromising? This compromise is an option given to her. You either take or you leave. Men don't get that. So why is it that that is a block, that is a point we have to remove. Whether she has taken advantage or not is also because that she didn't have an option. She had an option not to pursue the career. But that is not fair for a woman. Either you pursue or not to pursue and go back. It's not a real option in that sense. So at that angle we should make corrections. And secondly, as you had mentioned, patriarchy, superiority, all this could be the reasons why sexual harassment happens to women. And along with it, I'm adding a word for those who are not familiar, please read more about it. It is called misogyny. Misogyny can be interpreted, defined to mean generations old hatred towards women. We don't really understand it. We are a country, we think that, no, and we say that we worship women. Everybody, you might have heard it, like goddesses concept. And we say, no, in our country, women are worshipped. But let me just tell you, what women require is not worshipping, not treating her low, treating her exactly like a human being who can also make mistakes like anybody else. When you worship her, you are keeping a high standard for her. Small mistake from her side, she will be put to test. Even if you see, if you drive and you see somebody violating a traffic rule, the first instance is little annoyance, but second instance is, oh, that too a woman. Many of you will agree with me. I have heard it personally. Why a woman can't break a traffic rule? Why are you surprised that it is a woman? These are all the stereotyping that is there in our mind. Next one, please. So now I'll tell you about this case, which was a starting point of this law relating to sexual harassment, or rather prevention of sexual harassment. In 1997, Supreme Court came up with this case called Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan. Vishakha is the name of an organization that filed a case in the court. What happened was, in the villages of Rajasthan, some NGOs were working. They were working along with the government, like you might have seen, people coming to our homes for malaria tablet and for taking census and all that. These women were working with the government to propagate a number of things, and one important matter was stopping child marriages in the villages of Rajasthan. So this particular woman, the social worker, this woman social worker, she tried to stop a child marriage which was going to happen in a family. She went and spoke to them and said, child marriage is a crime, don't do that. But they were not listening to her. They were an affluent, powerful family and they didn't want to listen to her. So she tried to stop them by going to the police station and bringing a policeman along with her to stop. Finally, the marriage ceremony was conducted and it was of an infant. That is a different matter, because they could probably purchase the policeman. Marriage was held. The issue is not that. Issue is they decided to punish her for trying to stop a ceremony at their homes. And they punished her, they decided to teach her a lesson by gang raping her in her husband's presence. Husband was beaten up, and she was subjected to rape, gang rape, by men of that family. Now the point that I want you to think about is, if it was a man social worker having done the same act, do you think he would have been sexually attacked, or he would have been just stabbed or kicked or beaten up? What do you think? A man, if a man had done it, maybe he might have been killed. I'm not saying no to that. But he wouldn't normally be sexually attacked. Because it was a woman to teach her a lesson, that superiority and patriarchy which you had mentioned there. It is not that sexual harassment happens purely out of attraction or lust or things like that. That may also be a factor sometimes. But superiority, teaching a lesson, all these also are reasons why. And moreover, it is claimed as a right, or power structure also plays. We are not directly aware of it, but it is inherent. It is that indoctrination is there in our mind somewhere. So that we need to correct at every point of time. And it was in this judgment that Supreme Court for the first time said, see, for this woman, village is a workplace. She was working. So at workplace, if women are subjected to sexual harassment, Supreme Court said that amounts to violation of her fundamental right to dignity, to equality, her fundamental right not to be discriminated because she was a woman. She is subjected to this because she is a woman. So it is discrimination that is done to her. And also it is her right to work safely is getting affected. So Supreme Court for the first time ordered that there has to be guidelines, there has to be committees in every office, whether it is a government or a private office. And if sexual harassment happens, what is sexual harassment also Supreme Court defined. And said if this happens, this committee will take the matter up and the person could be punished within the department. Not criminal punishment that way, but punishment within the workplace. This is the beginning of the law relating to prevention of sexual harassment of women at workplace. But then this happened in 1997, and let's move to 2013. So finally, in 2013, Parliament passed this act. So after this act is passed, we will follow the act. Before the act passed, it was the Vishakha guidelines, the code guidelines that we used to follow. Now I'm requesting you to just read this line and share your thoughts. Imagine that you're traveling in a train, you are at a public place where some strangers, random people are there, and this newspaper headline comes, or you hear a news and everybody starts discussing about it. What would be the immediate responses of people of all age, of all sexes, strangers from different walks of life sitting together? How would people respond? You can be very honest and share your thoughts. It might not be your thought, but usually what people may say. So the previous one, sorry. This one, I want you to look at this one.
Some means now thinking about the society, I think that many of them will say why she has to drink. Many of will have this perception.
So why did they drink? Which means why did they go to pub to drink? Why did they go at that particular time? So space becomes a problem, time becomes a problem, manner becomes a problem. Crime and the criminal becomes not a problem. Highlighted. Will you please take the next one? And now I am sure that all will empathize. We will speak about the state of law, how government is not implementing, that these men should be killed, that our law should be made probably like Saudi Arabia's. These are all what we hear often when an offense happens. But see, essentially, women were raped. But how society looks at it is quite different. This is called stereotyping. Stereotyping based on gender. A woman is expected to be like this. A woman cannot do it. Or a man, both ways. A man cannot cry. See the pressure that is put on poor men. They can't even cry. And we know very well that if some tears will give so much of relief to people, it's affecting both ways when gender stereotyping happens. Next one, please. So the point is, gender stereotyping results or it leads to gender discrimination also. Because when we expect women to be in a certain way, it would also be that women has to be in that way and men can be in a different way. This leads to gender discrimination also. And Supreme Court has said, you can't be discriminated on the basis of sex alone. Constitution says that you cannot be discriminated on the basis of sex alone. Good. Next one. Past two slides, because already I had discussed that. Next one. Further. One more. Okay, so I'm going to tell you brief things, what everybody should know under POSH Act read along with UGC regulations. Why I have put both the names here for you is because we are at a higher educational institution. When POSH Act was passed, that definition did not cover a student. And moreover, campus word is not used. It is about workplace. So to make it applicable properly in an higher educational institution, UGC issued the guidelines. So we are bound by both the Act and also the UGC guidelines because we are bound by UGC guidelines as well. These two are not conflicting. It is just putting the process the method properly in higher educational institutions. So we'll see what it is about. Next one. Now, I want to tell you or maybe discuss with you what amounts to sexual harassment. Awareness, as you said rightly, starts from here. Many times we do not even know that sending an SMS or a forward message could result in sexual harassment. Stalking may amount to sexual harassment. Or making a gesture. I don't even touch. Just making a gesture could amount to sexual harassment. A non-verbal conduct could amount to sexual harassment. In fact, this confusion was there not only with ordinary people like you and me, laymen for that matter. This confusion was also in the mind of the High Court. To give you an example of that, one firm, company called Apparel Export Promotion Council. They, the chairperson or the chairman as they were called that time, used to call the stenographer every time or go near the stenographer every time for dictation, etc. And he tried to make physical contact or advances with her. She did not allow, she protested and stopped at every point of time. When this went on, she complained. So the High Court said, this does not amount to sexual harassment because she was not actually touched. He only tried. Supreme Court corrected this High Court judgment, and Supreme Court said no. Attempting to do is also sexual harassment. So physical touch or physical contact is not required to constitute sexual harassment. So definition will help us to understand what amounts to sexual harassment. So on one side I had put the POSH Act, the other side I had put the regulations. You need not look at both, you can just look at the red color, red font. Any act that is done which is of a sexual nature and which is unwelcome to the girl or to the woman. Unwelcome means I don't like it, that's it. I'm not happy about it. Welcome means it's okay with me. So if it is unwelcome for me and if this act is of a sexual nature, what are the different kinds of act? It may be physical contact, it may be a gesture, it may be a sexually colored remark, it may be showing some pornographic material, or it could be any verbal or non-verbal contact. It can mean anything which is not listed here. But two things. One, it should be unwelcome for me. Second, it must have a sexual nature. When such an act is done, it amounts to sexual harassment. This is the definition of sexual harassment. So if this happens, we will see who can complain, where this has to happen for me to complain in my college. All this we need to understand. Next. And the Act also mentions how this usually happens. What are the circumstances in which this usually happens? At workplaces. Because sometimes it is you do this for me, then I will sign your journal. I will put more marks for you. Or I will give you a better grade, or I will send you a file for promotion. Whatever it may be. You don't do this, I will see that you are never promoted. Or I will keep your file back. Etc. etc. So on one side giving favors, on the other side giving discriminatory or threats, always very many times accompanied. It need not be there. Don't think that every time it should be there. And don't think this happens only between a superior and a subordinate. No, it can happen between two colleagues of the same level. It can happen between two students. It can be any. Only point is that it should be against a woman. Now here a question that comes is, can a woman file for sexual harassment against another woman? What do you think? We may think it is no, but law is very tricky. Law specifies only the gender of the victim. Law is leaving that open in respect of the doer. So the complaint may be filed against anyone of any gender, but complaint can be filed only by a woman. That is how it is. Next one. Just try to put it this way, please see. The person who's standing in the center doesn't find it offensive. The right hand side person, let us call her Neha, she finds it offensive. Now here, the person who is cracking the joke, tomorrow he would say, I just said a statement, it was a joke, everybody in the room laughed, there were 20 people, all laughed except her. What is her problem? Because nobody else found it offensive. The point is, they didn't find it offensive, it's okay, but I found it offensive, so I am complaining. That's it. It is purely a subjective experience. There is no rule that this is sexual harassment, this is not. A statement which contains a remark of a sexual nature might be welcomed by many people, so they are not filing complaint. If I don't find it welcome, I find it unwelcome, I would file a complaint. It is as simple as that. Go to the next one. So therefore, putting all the important points together, sexual harassment relates to an act or a behavior. That may be verbal or non-verbal. And that is unwelcome to the woman. It is of a sexual nature. If it is not of any sexual nature, it is not sexual harassment. Thirdly, It is a subjective experience. Subjective experience means different Nehas will consider it differently. That is what is called a subjective experience. And many times it happens in a matrix of power, but need not be. It could happen between people of the same status also. But then you must remember patriarchy behind, which works in our genetic framework and in our nervous system. Go to the next one. Certain examples of what amount to sexual harassment. List can never be complete. Just putting some examples which Government of India itself has posted as what amounts to sexual harassment. Obscene phone calls. Now what is obscene is again flexible interpretation would be there. And stalking, physical contacts, sending messages which are not appropriate, touch, gesture, all this would amount to sexual harassment. But we should also see what will not amount to sexual harassment. Sometimes you have to meet a deadline, you have to submit the project on time, otherwise no repeat, no, your seminar marks are going to be cancelled. This by itself is not sexual harassment. We have to understand that. So just because the employer or the superior is very stern on you and no act ever has happened which can be connected to any sexual act, just the person is very strict. Maybe this person is partial to one, strict to one and not strict to another. That also by itself does not. If such issues come, it should go to a proper grievance committee because the supervisors are supposed to be impartial. Maybe partiality is due to some other reason. It need not be sexual harassment. So only if it amounts to sexual harassment, then the matter can come to under this act and to the committee constituted for this purpose. Next. Next. Now, this act applies to students also. Students are protected under this law, which means if sexual harassment happens to a girl student, a complaint can be filed with the committee of your college called internal committee. But who is a student? Now you are a student. But when you came to take admission here, you were not a student. So the day you came to take admission, before admission process is over, but you have come for admission and the process has started. Enrollment is not done. During that time, if an act of sexual harassment happens to you in the campus, still you are considered to be a student. So student means not only a student registered and entered as a student, the one who is undergoing the admission process also, one who is doing correspondence courses also, internship also, are all considered to be student for this purpose, which means they all can complain to the internal committee of your college. Next. Go to the next one. Even the next. Now, I have to ask you, just previous one please. Please try to read this quickly. When other students from other colleges come here for an event, and if they complain of an act of sexual harassment, are they your students? For the purpose of the act, yes. Even when you go outside, you can complain to the committee there. Understood? So now today when I stand here, this is my workplace. Otherwise my workplace geographically is VM Salgaonkar College of Law. Geographical location. But wherever I go as an employee in official capacity, that is my workplace. Wherever you go for field work, that's all your campus. The definition of campus covers that. You go for a sports event, that is your campus. Maybe you go by college bus. That bus is your campus at that time. When the employer is providing transportation, transport is also, that means of transport is also your workplace. But the thing is, officially, it should happen. If two colleagues, if two friends, if two classmates, they decide to go for a trip, or a group of people, they decide to go for a tour, which is not an official one, complaint cannot come here as a result of what happened there, unless that is connected to something which happened here in the campus also. That we have to understand. So which means workplace also we need to understand. The term student is clear. Now what amount, and sexual harassment is clear. Now what is the meaning of workplace? Next. Further. Yes. Next one. Then again further. No, I'll better stop here because workplace word I had not used here. Instead, I had used the word campus. Because since it's college, I just did not use. But for others who are working in an institution, workplace means, again, your department, your geographical zone, wherever you are sent. Everything amounts to workplace. Now we will see who can file a complaint, where can you file a complaint, how can I file a complaint, if I file a complaint, what would be done, etc. Very briefly. First of all, under this POSH Act, also read along with UGC guidelines, in every college there has to be an internal committee. And I think I had written, there's also another committee called local committee. Since you are going to be educators, I'm telling you this also. There is another committee which is constituted by the district collector. This committee is called local committee. Because sometimes your neighbor tells you that there is an issue here that my neighbor's house, domestic help is going to the house nearby. She also comes to my place. Now she is telling me, complaining to me that there in the other house she is subjected to sexual harassment, what she should do. Such matters should go to local committee. Got it? If I employ at least 10 people, I must have a committee in my college or in my institution. If I am employing less than 10, in every house we can't have a committee. So in places where less than 10 people are working, any complaint comes, that complaint will go to the district collector and the matter will be taken up by a committee over there. That is for your information. But in your college, there is an internal complaints committee, now referred to as internal committee. Next. This is how the internal committee of this college and every higher educational institution should be. The internal committee will comprise of a presiding officer. Presiding officer has to be a woman employee who is an associate professor. Then this committee will comprise of 2 other faculty members. It also comprises of 2 non-teaching members, non-teaching employees. It will also comprise of 1 student from each program, depending on is it an UG, PG and PhD. Even if there are many departments, 1 student who is a representative of all UG programs. 1 from PG and 1 from PhD, if they have. So this is the composition of this committee. Now the student members will be involved only when the matter concerns a student. Otherwise they are not called for meetings, etc. If there is a complaint and if if a student is involved in any manner, then the student members are also included. Otherwise, they are not part of the committee for other purposes. Yes. And certain persons are not supposed to be in the internal committee, like the principal, head of the institution, registrar of university, dean of a department. Why these people are not included is because this committee, you will file a complaint. This committee will make a report. The report will be given to your principal. Principal has to take action. So that principal cannot be part of this committee. If you are not happy with this, you file an appeal to the principal. And people having managerial positions, high administrative positions are kept away so that the committee works independently without any pressure from the college or without any pressure from anyone. That is why such people are not part of the committee. Next. Now don't be scared that once I complain to the committee, the whole world will come to know. The committee is under a serious rule of confidentiality. If any of the committee members breach this confidentiality and disclose it to any friend or to public or to media in any manner, they can be punished for indiscipline and for misconduct of their service. It is that grave a matter. So confidentiality is a rule when it comes to such proceedings. And confidentiality is not only regarding the complainant, it is also regarding the other person. If I am a member of committee, I cannot disclose the complainant's details and also the other person's, the respondent's details. Both way confidentiality is maintained. Next. Now who can file a complaint? A woman can file a complaint. This woman can be an employee, can be anybody who visits the institution also, but a woman can be a student or an intern or an apprentice, whatever it is, whether employed or not, in your campus or in your workplace, that person can file a complaint. can be of any age also. Go to the next one. But suppose this girl or this woman is not in a physical and mental state to file a complaint. A representative, maybe a family member, a friend, a psychologist, a counselor, somebody else on her behalf can also file a complaint, provided she consents to it. With her permission, it can be done, not without. In case, unfortunately, a girl is no more who is a victim of sexual harassment, her legal heir can also file a complaint and the case can move on. Now, complaint must be a written complaint. This daring should be there for all concerned. It can't be a verbal complaint. Verbal complaint cannot be taken up by internal committee. It has to be a written complaint, and the complaint must be given within 3 months from the date on which it happens. It can't be after 1 year. That also should be remembered. There's a time period within which the complaint has to be given. Even if 3 months became 4 months, no need to hesitate. Complaint can be given and committee can extend to some extent. If they think no reasonable grounds are there, it can be extended. But as a rule, 3 months is a rule. And now what is the punishment? Suppose it is shown when the committee gets this complaint, committee will call one person, the other person, ask them to give evidence, will try to understand everything, and after that the committee will come to a conclusion that this person is guilty. If the guilt or if the charge is proved, what is the punishment? If it is a student, student can be dismissed, student can be stopped from writing exams for 1 or 2 years or whatever, student can be stopped from traveling in the college bus or entering the library or coming to college for so much of a time. All these punishments can come. Community work, counseling, all this could be part of the punishments imposed. If the person who has committed the offense is an employee, a staff, a teacher, they will be punished as per their service rules. For a student, there are no service rules, code of conduct. Otherwise, it is as per their service rules, their employment rules. Next. And in addition to all these punishments, sometimes the committee may also ask the person who has committed this to pay compensation if they think that is required. Maybe medical expenses incurred, lot of trauma incurred. In such cases, compensation is also provided. Committee can ask for it. Now, I think I will conclude today with this part. Giving a complaint is a very responsible and a very bold step, but responsible all the more. False complaint will lead to the same punishment given to the person who gives a false complaint. But the idea of saying this is not to create any fear. I will also tell you what is a false complaint. If I give a complaint but I am unable to prove it, you know that sexual harassment is not something where I have eyewitnesses to prove it. It may not be possible all the time to prove it. If you are unable to prove it, that doesn't make it a false complaint. So what is a false complaint? I make a screenshot, I fabricate a document, I ask people to give false witness evidence, I totally fabricate and make up a case. If the committee comes to know, for example, you are giving some evidence of a photograph and it is found that you manipulated and made these photographs, there it is becoming a false complaint. So false complaint means bad intention must be shown to the committee. Committee should be convinced of that. They should also conduct an inquiry to check whether there is a false complaint. If false complaint is proved, then punishment will go to the person who is filing the complaint. But a person's inability, a woman's inability to prove her complaint does not ever make it a false complaint. So no need to apprehend that way. False means with bad intention, you're making up a case when the case is not there. And that evidence is there to show that you had made it up. Only then it amounts to a false complaint and punishment will go for false complaint also. So now I think I will conclude with this part of it. Lot of time I spent already. So altogether when we look at it, sexual harassment on one side of a woman, on one side, it is something which can be complained at the workplace if it happens at workplace. It can also be complained to the police. If this girl wants the help of the institution to file a police complaint and she asks the institution to help her in filing a police complaint, institution must help her. That is also there. But otherwise speaking, there is this committee which is constituted. This committee will take up the matter committee will decide the matter within 90 days and will make a report. The report will be given to the principal, and principal shall act on the basis of such report, because it's very clear that they have to act on the basis of this report. And government also makes sure that this is followed in institutions by asking them to give an annual report. So every year your college will be filing an annual report to the district collector saying how many complaints were filed. It may be 0 also, otherwise 1, 2, whatever. Is there any complaint which is pending beyond 90 days? They have to answer there. What are the actions taken against the person? They can't say no action taken when the complaint is proved. So all this puts a pressure on the institution also to take proper action and follow the act. Now if you have any questions, doubts, thoughts to share, you are free to. And as ma'am said, the whole idea is about making it a very nice place and a good and a safe place for everybody to live in. So responsibility is a key factor. Respect to self and to others is another thing. Thank you very much. Yes.
Hello. Ma'am, you just said about the fall cases. So if a girl file a case or the fabricate case in such a way that man is unable to prove that, then what to do?
There are two points here which I have to tell you. One is, when I file a complaint, I have to prove it against you. So if I cannot prove it against you, my case is not proved and no action will be taken against you. So that itself makes sure that I should have some evidence to prove it against you. Now, when I produce some evidence, it is your responsibility to show that that evidence is fabricated, etc. That opportunity is given. Reasonable opportunity is given to the other party to ensure that no injustice is caused to that person. Starting with, when she files a complaint, a copy of the complaint will be given to you. And then you will be asked to file a reply to that. Whatever evidence, screenshots, anything that she gives, copy of that will come to the respondent. Whatever the respondent gives as evidence, copy of that will go to the complainant. Total transparency is maintained. If she comes or she brings some witnesses who are going to speak against you, it will be done only in your presence. So you come to know everything that is given against you, and you are given all reasonable opportunity to show otherwise. You will be allowed to give your witnesses, your evidence. Since you get a copy of it, you can go through it and you can bring it. So opportunity is given to both the parties. Now finally, based on the evidence given, the committee comes to a conclusion. Just like how a court comes to a conclusion. So it is all evidence based. So there again, whether can it be a wrong thing means, in any criminal case it's subject to this. So beyond that, it is, we often say that no, courts give justice is a myth. But if there is evidence, it is possible. If there is no evidence, how to give justice? So it is evidence based. Thank you.
Ma'am, if individual files a complaint to the committee and the committee fully declines to register or fully doesn't take any action, then what is the next step?
Now, in such an instance, you can complain to the principal showing that no action is taken by the committee. But again, principal usually forwards it to the committee. So what if the principal also does not? Here, the law does not mention a clear-cut answer, but what you can do is you could write to the district collector who is having overall control over this. Secondly, and the most effective is, it may be little difficult to think of, but file a writ petition in the High Court. Because when any authority is under a legal duty to do something, and if they don't do that, you can file a writ petition asking them to do that. That is a proper legal remedy that is available. And in fact, once a woman complained like this in Chennai, that the committee was not correctly constituted and it got delayed, etc. And you won't believe, more than ₹1 crore was given as compensation to her, because she lost an opportunity to go to US due to all that.
Any more questions from the audience?
Hello, ma'am. So I want to say that if the complaint is genuine, but if the woman is not able to prove that, then what will happen?
No, without proof, unfortunately, no action can be taken, because a committee deciding the matter cannot decide based on what they think. It should be, all the evidence should be there. And suppose a girl, I am just extending your question, what will happen? Nothing can happen is my answer. But I am extending this question to another situation where a girl is refusing to give a written complaint. But she informs the committee members. Now here, what can the committee do? If you look at the sections, nothing much directly, but the committee can do by calling that person informally and saying, we received some anonymous complaint, or we got some oral complaint. So better you take care, and we are just informing you. That itself may put. Suddenly the institution should conduct a lot of awareness programs in all the classes, etc. Telling about the offense and what will happen. Suddenly people will become alert. In this manner, internal committee has a role to play, not only when something happens, before it happens. So actually this program is part of internal committee's initiative to spread awareness and to empower people. This is all part of the process. Because POSH, P is a double P. One P is for prevention, the other is for prohibition. Thank you so much for this involvement, participation, the smile on your faces. That means a lot. Shall I? Thank you.
Very good morning to one and all. It's a great pleasure to extend vote of thanks for this occasion of talk organized on POSH Act by Internal Committee of GVM's Dr. Vaidya College of Education. UGC Regulation 2015 had made it mandatory for all the employers and the students in the higher secondary or higher education institutions to follow the prevention, prohibition and redressal of sexual harassment of women's employees and students in the higher educational institutions, and the regulations has to be strictly followed and mandatorily put into action. Here we had on this occasion Dr. Sandhya Ram, Associate Professor, VM Salgaonkar College of Law, as the chief guest and the keynote speaker. Ma'am, your session was elaborate, and the interactive session discussions on various situational cases was really helpful and eye-opener for our students. I'm sure that the understanding, the support extended by the law, the UGC and the internal complaints committee will really help our students and we really give them the courage to speak up. It's really informative session, and I am also sure that our students will transfer this knowledge to the next generation learners in the schools. We had Dr. Poornima ma'am as the guest of honor, and she is associated with the Lhasa Center for Terminal Illness Ponda, and she is also the member external of IMA Ponda Charitable Trust. Ma'am, your words were really lovely and caring, and I'm sure that our students will take care it as motherly advice. And also we had the president of Internal Complaints Committee, Dr. Karuna Satardekar. Ma'am joined online, but unluckily we couldn't listen to her words, but I'm sure that she will be always here to extend the strength to the Internal Complaints Committee team of our institution. In the absence of Dr. Jojen Matthew,
the principal of our GVMs, Dr. Vaidya College of Education. I also extend gratitude to sir who always support us for these type of programs. I also extend the gratitude to all the IC members who are present over here, who helped and supported to conduct this program. Likewise, staff and the students for all the participation and cooperation for this program. Thank you.